Okay, fantastic. So you guys are up for a real treat because not only is she my business partner and knew exactly what to order me for lunch, which was perfect as if she was in my own head. It was amazing. She also does a mean Running Man. She does a mean Michael Jackson impersonation. Yeah, see? Yeah, it's awesome. And she is the best person to go to Palm Springs with, I'm just saying. But aside from that, I met Beth. Have you guys heard the story of how we met? I was speaking, I'll summarize it really quickly. I was speaking on stage, and I had been on like a 6-week speaking tour, and I had been on 18 stages yeah. I didn't even know where I was. Like, I'd have to like wake up and look at the phone to figure out what city I was in. And I had gone downstairs to the event. I whooshed in, just, you know, I was at that time just like burn in, get set, get on stage, and go for it. And I noticed her sitting over there. Someone else was speaking, and being the little social butterfly that I am, I wandered over to her table, and we started talking. And when she told me what she did, I was like, ooh, I need some of that. Because I had been doing really, really well in my business, and I, you know, had the marketing down. You know, at the time, was really aligned with what it was that I was meant to do in that moment, and was very, very successful. But it was like the same operational drama on the back end. I had no systems in place. It was basically like if I was on the road, the business stopped. And since I was on the road so much, it was like I would go in from these speaking engagements and have to run up to my computer and, you know, start answering all the emails and doing all the stuff. It was just, I was exhausted. And that's when I met Miss Schneider, and she really, really turned my business around and started providing me with systems and ways of doing thing that helped me smooth out my business, okay? Because we've all said, you know, management, not my favorite thing. But she has really helped me to not only improve as a manager, but also to really build and look for and guide and manage teams that allow me to scale my business and serve more people in a way that, as we talked before, designs a really wow client experience. And last year, Beth and I decided we're like, because we're yin and yang, we are peanut butter and chocolate, like we just go together. We are the half to each other. And last year, Beth and I partnered on the Millionaire Prodigy Club, and we are right now working our way through our second mastermind with, there's a few MPC people in the room, woohoo! And so without further ado, you guys have the next hour or so to spend with Ms. Schneider. So, Bethy, welcome. Which one?
Am I on? Can you hear me now? Can you? All right.
I am now also AV.
Yeah. Multiple jobs. Hi, everybody. How you doing? How was lunch? All right. Are we all excited, or do you have the lunchtime? Not yet. No. Okay. If you start to feel the lunchtime, I'm going to make you get up and stretch and do some jumping jacks and move around. Is that okay? Can I have your permission to do that? All right. Awesome. Okay. So we've spent the last day and a half now really working with Kelly on the creative and thinking, okay, what is this that I want? How am I going to put it together? The big picture, the overview of what this is going to look like. Now we're going to spend some time really talking about the nitty-gritty and the details and the how behind what she was describing in direct relationship to building a team and delegating effectively so that you don't have to do it all yourself. Because, like I say here, how would you really like to create a high-performing team who implements your brilliant ideas so you can just really focus on the stuff you like to do? Anybody into that? All right, thank you. That's what we're going to talk about. I do know some of you in the room. Some of you, this is your first introduction to me, so I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I've done. I'm very grateful to have worked with some really big names in the small business world, people like Allie Brown, Adam Urbanski, Melanie Benson-Strick, Alexis Neely, now known with a slightly different name. Anybody know this person? Michelle P.W., Michael Port, Christine Closer, Fabienne Fredrickson, Ari Galper, Bernadette Doyle, Christian Michelson, Carrie Wilkerson. These are all my clients. So, just to name a few. Not pictured are people like Yannick Silver. I figured that was enough pictures. So I've been around the block. I've been doing this for a long time. People keep coming back to me because I make really big differences. My company makes really big differences in the way that the way other people run their business. Let's talk specifically about delegating and why you really want to listen to me about this. Because I will say I am a really powerful delegator. What I have done really well is I have built a really strong team that has really helped take my business to the next level. Case in point, I own a consulting company. I hardly do any consulting because I have a team that does that for me. I have people that are doing that work for me. How many of you have worked with Jamie? A lot of you in the room. Yeah. Jamie is my senior consultant, and she does the majority of the work for me. And for some of you who are thinking, I don't have a team, maybe I can't afford a team, I'm not ready for a team, anybody thinking that? Okay. I was there. I fully understand what you're thinking. I'll just give you a quick story here. I was in an event similar to this, and one of my mentors at the time, Michael Gerber, who can be very prolific, and then turn around and swear like a sailor all at the same time, looked at me and said, well, look at the nice job you've created for yourself. Isn't that nice? What are you going to do about that? And I said, oh, no. And he said, yes, you do. And I said, okay, I'm not really sure. But he says, if you want to scale this business, if that's really what you want, then you need to look at this differently. And the big light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, I get it. Okay. And I went out and I started to look for Jamie. This is about 5 years ago already. She's been working with me for a long time, and I was scared to death to bring her on. How am I going to manage this? How am I going to train her? How am I going to pay her? How are we going to all make this work out? And I'll tell you, way back then, it was a big leap of faith for me to hire her in that capacity. I had other team members. I had some assistants and a VA and a few other people that were working with me. But this was a huge leap for me to bring somebody in that was going to be working with my clients. I bet you can all understand that. And so we came to a really great arrangement. We came up with a payment schedule that worked for both of us at the time. It's grown and changed, and it's been massaged a few times over the years. But because she was willing to take a chance on me, and I was willing to take a chance on her, and we were able to find some kind of win-win situation, it made a huge difference in the place that my business is. Because I hired her, that freed me up to create new programs. It's allowed me to partner with Kelly. If I was doing all the consulting, there is no way in a million years that I would have been able to launch these other programs because I would be really busy. It's really been a huge freedom place for me to be able to effectively delegate to her. Does that make sense? And when it comes down to, I want you all to think about, what's your biggest motivator? Why are you here doing this? I hung out my shingle 10 years ago this year. I had my 10-year entrepreneurial anniversary back in May. And my biggest motivation was because family is really important to me. I'm getting married in November, so that's Jeff and I there. Thank you. Thank you. And it's important to me to really be able to spend the kind of quality time with him that I want. And the babies next to it, those aren't mine. They're my nieces. Those are my brother's twin girls. They're about 1.5 years. And I am cool Auntie Bethy. Not only am I cool Auntie Bethy, my mother wrote a song, and she sings it whenever I walk in the room and they're there. It goes something like this, and there's a dance. Cool Auntie Bethy, cool Auntie Bethy. I didn't say it was a good song, but that's my mother. But it allows me, again, this kind of setting up my business and effectively delegating allows me to spend the time with them that I want to, and that's really important to me. So, I mean, think just for 2 seconds, just get a vision in your head. Like, why would you want a team? What are you going to spend your time with? What's the purpose of freeing yourself up? What's your big why? Everybody got something? Anybody not have something? Okay. All right, so here's what I see happening in the world around delegation, and I've heard a lot of the reasons I hear people tell me that they don't delegate, they don't know what to delegate, they don't know who to delegate to, nobody can do it as well as they can. Nobody understands what I'm doing. They're just gonna mess it all up. All those kinds of. Anybody ever said any of this stuff to themselves? Yeah. So here's what I see. And these are some of the common mistakes. You've repeated the same instructions 25 times and it still just doesn't get done right. Anybody done this one? Sit straight up in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning because somebody was supposed to do something and you can't remember if they... Kelly's raising her hand in the back there. One of my clients said this to me, that they installed caller ID because they wanted to be able to properly screen their calls for when they did not want to talk to their clients when they knew stuff wasn't done. This is another favorite, why is this late? Where's my project? Huh? Project? Did you tell me to do something? Your team members not knowing what's going on, and then this one. This happens a lot as your business starts to grow. It's the they did it factor. It's over there where one task gets done, 4 or 5 different times by different people and maybe even not done right, and then there's that one thing that slips through the cracks. This is all examples of ineffective delegating. So we're going to flip this around so that this doesn't happen to you. Would that be all right? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. All right, so what it really comes down to is you want to have a team who not only understands what you want, but you provide them with the tools so that they can give it to you. Because people want to be successful. They want to do a good job for you. I don't think there's anybody out there that takes a role and says, you know what, I'm going to do a half-baked, crappy job. That's not, most people don't live in that space. They want to do a good job. So it's your job as the delegator to set a foundation and set up the tools so that they can be successful for you. Does that make sense? Okay, so I have 5 steps and a bonus step. We're going to talk about my 5 effective steps, and then I'm going to give you my bonus step, which is how to delegate when there's nobody to delegate to. Anybody interested in that one? Yeah. No, that one's at the end. You can't start there. Okay, so step 1 is, and this is a biggie. When we're talking about this, now I'm going to come from a perspective of what immediately can you start to delegate, but there's 2 ways to look at this. There's a bigger picture of what kind of foundation are we building? What kind of team do we want to build? If you're looking to build a high-performance team, like anything else, like you plan a launch, you plan what's going to happen in your business. This is part of planning your business. What is your team going to look like? How are you going to get out there and bring in the people that you need? And figuring out who those people are is part of your delegation plan. So we're going to start, I want to give you some tips on like the immediate now. How can you start to delegate? So you want to start to think about the things that you're doing on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, a yearly basis. Things like answering the phone, Maybe you're doing some bookkeeping stuff. Maybe you're scheduling your calendar. Maybe you're making phone calls. Start to make lists of all of those day-to-day things that you're doing. And start to identify and ask yourself the question, should I really be doing this? Is this a good use of my time? Is this making me money? Can somebody else do this for me? So one more time, should I be doing this? Is this making me money? Can someone else do this for me? That's where you want to start. And so this is really a little homework for you. I want you to really, because this is going to take a little time, I want you to really think about the things that you're doing. Those are your most immediate needs, things that you can start to look for someone to bring into your organization and whether it's part-time, full-time, whatever, those are the kinds of things that you want to immediately start to get off your plate. And let me speak to that for a second as well. When I say bring somebody in, I'm not talking about a 40-hour-a-week, full-time, you got to figure out how to pay them benefits kind of person. You can go out. The very first person I hired in my business, I said, all right, what's my budget and how do I do this? I committed to spending $100 a month. I found somebody who would work for me for $10 an hour for 10 hours a month. It was a friend of mine. She needed some extra cash. She had some time. She was willing. And it was a nice fit. So while she was working, so I was very specific. I made that list, and I picked out some very specific things for her to focus on and do those things. And during that time, while she was working on those things, I was working on money-making things. I was calling potential clients. I was doing, all of the things that needed to get done in order to bring money in the door so that I could pay for her and then make some. Does that make sense? So eventually, I got to the point where I was covering her salary and more. And so I upped her hours a little bit. I committed to more. So she was doing more, which freed me up. Do you see, though, what I guess the bigger point that I want to make is at this point in my business, I didn't say, hey, great, go work on this over here. I'm going to go sit on the couch and eat ding-dongs. I was doing money-making things to pay for that. That's how I covered the expense of it. Does that make sense? Eventually now, I have other things where there's some revenue coming in and my team is making me money, so it does free me up to do more fun stuff. But in the beginning, I used it as a way to free me up so that I could work on the sales. And then it just becomes a snowball effect. She works more hours, I make more sales, I have more money to spend and grow the team, then I bring in the next person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is your first homework piece, is I want you to really think about those things and make that list so that you can figure out what kinds of things that you should be giving away. Then the second thing, on this bigger scale, is I want you to think about your business and what you really should be giving away. Maybe you can't right now, but 5 years down the line, how do you want to be running your company? I have an organizational chart that is a glimpse of the future, that lists positions that I know we're going to want to fill, but not right now. So things like a director of consulting, a PR person, different things that I'm planning for so that we can get ready for those positions, but we're not ready yet. Because those are things I know that I don't want to do. There's some accounting stuff that I'm very attached to the money, so I'm still involved with a lot of the money stuff, which is not, for me, it's not a bad thing, but eventually I will turn that over to a CFO. So but I'm waiting to a specific point. I decided early on, I just told you my story about Jamie, that I didn't have to do all the consulting. If I wanted to scale the company, I needed to bring in a consultant. So there's more consultants on the org chart, there's a consultant manager on the org chart, there's all of these people that are coming in. And I want you to start to think about, okay, what should my business be? What down the line am I going to want to delegate? Because you want to start planning for that now. Because it seems like, well, if I'm in the middle of this and I'm the one that's doing this, it seems like it might be just okay to keep going on a day-to-day basis without thinking about it. But you want to start thinking about it early, because then you can prepare, how am I going to charge? When this is not me and I need to pay another person, how is that going to affect what I need to, how is that going to affect my costs? What should I be documenting now while I'm doing it, so that later I can make sure that somebody else can do it? Does this make sense? I think it's a little easier to see it. So what I'm going to do, and Michelle, can I pick on you? Because I know that your business model is really applicable to this. Do we have the wireless? Can you join me? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you, I think it's over here on the stand. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to show you, because right now, Michelle, what does your team, who are you delegating to right now? What does your team look like?
Me and one assistant.
Okay. That's Michelle. That's Michelle. Always got a smile on her face. Okay, and we have one assistant right now. Okay, now Michelle is in the fitness industry. So we've talked about, and I've worked with her, so I understand her business. So I'm using this as an example so you can see what I'm doing. In the future, we have talked about bringing in trainers, coaches and trainers. So we're looking at, so right now, she is the trainer, but eventually, there will be a trainer. And when we had a conversation about this, I said, okay, great. Not only do we want one trainer, we probably really want 2 trainers instead. Instead of 1 full-time trainer, we probably want 2 part-time trainers, so that, this is the contingency plan, if one quits, one sucks, one pisses you off, one, does something snaky, gets sick, gets pregnant and decides they don't want to train anymore, just decides they want a whole different, shtick, she doesn't have to start over. Didn't we talk about that?
Right, but it's changed from trainers to coaches, but yeah, same thing.
Okay. So we'll call it a coach. Okay. So while she's doing this now herself, you're preparing and documenting and putting things in place so it'll be really easy for her to pass this off later down the line to other people. So that's what I want you to do for yourself, is to really, thank you, Michelle. Thank you. I know I made you talk a lot there. But that's what I really want you to start thinking about, is what does the future bring? What's the now that we can immediately give away, but what is also the future that's coming? So I'm actually going to give you a few minutes to work on this. I'm only going to give you 5 minutes, because I really want you, this is something that you need to think about, that needs to kind of marinate in your head a little bit, but I want you to start making some lists and thinking about the future. So take your piece of paper and write a line down the middle, and on the left side put immediate now, and on the right side put down the future, things that you want to delegate. And start thinking that through. And I'll come around a little bit and answer any questions if you have. But I want you to start thinking in that frame of things. If you are stuck and you want some help, raise your hand and I'll come help you. Again, if you're stuck and you want some help, let me know. Just raise your hand.
I wasn't so much stuck. I came up with some technical things.
Okay.
But what I wanted to do is expand my vision more. I wanted you to, like, what else would I even be looking for? Like, I'm looking at the stuff that I know I could conceive of, but what's the stuff I can't conceive of?
So tell me, so you're a medium, correct?
No, that's Verena.
Okay.
But I'm a coach, an inspirational coach.
Okay.
Motivational.
Okay. So maybe do you want to be doing group programs? So somebody's running programs for you? Do you want to be just the coach so that behind the scenes there's somebody?
Yeah, I want a very scalable, like, I don't want to be huge.
Mhm.
No, I want a very streamlined, easy to manage structure.
Okay.
No chaos is my biggest value.
Okay.
So I'm not looking to have, I'm happy to make plenty of money, but I want a really easy to manage infrastructure.
Okay. So you want to be looking at how the business is coming in the first place, who's helping you sell it, who's helping you close it. You want to be looking at how the program itself is set up. Okay, so come back to me. Come back to me. So was that exercise a little bit harder than you thought it would be, or a little bit easier, or a little bit, it was easier? Good. Can you go to the mic? Steve, can you go to the mic and tell me what you thought? There we go.
It was easier than I thought it would be, and
Good.
actually I came up with a, the future list got really long really fast. I'm like, oh yeah, because even though I can do it, I like to do it, but I really shouldn't be doing it. And then I got really clear. I wrote down the 4 things that I want to do. And I'm like, God, I could be given, most of what I do, someone else could be doing. I like that.
That's a huge aha. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have the opposite effect where it seemed a little bit harder? Anybody? Trisha, you want to? Yep, sorry, the mic is for very short people.
I found
on?
this
There she is.
challenging because I've already delegated to other people, and those people may not be working for me. So I've just let them run, and so I need to think about all the things they're doing. And I have not managed well, and so they're running, and I need to think on the things that they're doing so I can bring it all
Absolutely.
inside and know what's going on.
Absolutely. So that's us. You can leave it. Should we leave the mic on?
Sure.
Or yeah, okay, that way. Will the battery run out? Tech guys in the back, should we leave the mic on or should we turn it off when we're done? Not this second, but maybe again? Okay, we'll leave it on. Okay, in the next few minutes. Awesome. Okay, so Trisha, what you said is interesting, and this is a trap. This is something that I want you to be careful of. As you get to the point where you are starting to delegate, and we're going to talk about this, so this is just like a little prequel of what's coming in the next couple of steps. It's really easy to start all of a sudden saying, hey, yeah, Bob works for me, and Sally works for me, and Jesse works for me, and I'm just giving them stuff. Here you go. Stuff. Woo-hoo. I can't remember what that stuff is. I don't know what that stuff is. I know it's important stuff. At least I think it's important stuff. Uh-oh, Jesse's leaving. What important stuff was Jesse doing? I don't know how Jesse does that. What am I going to do without Jesse? Jesse, please stay. Let me give you more money. I know I don't like you, and I know you do kind of a, crappy job, but please don't go. Anybody relating to this? So that's the next step, and you want to be careful of that. There's some very strategic ways that you want to set up how you are giving people tasks so that you don't end up in that situation. Okay, and this is a great example. I won't spend a lot of time on this. Tara is one of my clients, and she grew her business really quickly. What she did was she implemented this delegation technique, and she went from doing it all herself and she ran an organization, a networking organization, and she actually asked for volunteers. So she created these volunteer teams that did it all for her. So she was able to focus and grow and not spend a lot of money because these were volunteers and continue to grow her organization. So it's you want to get creative and see, okay, yeah, here's what I do now, and I know I want to do more. How can I get the money? How can I get this? This is what we'll talk about in that how do you delegate when you don't have anybody to delegate to scenario. But you want to start to get creative about how you can get people to help you. It pays off quickly. Okay, so this is the next step that I really want to talk to you about. So step 2, now we've got the foundation. Now you've got some whats. What do I want to start to get off my plate? What do I want to delegate? What do I want to give away so that I don't have to do this anymore? So step 2 then is to lay out how do we get those things done? So if you want to delegate phone calls, let's say, you don't want to just say, hey, Sally, you work for me now. Awesome. Can you please take these phone calls? And Sally doesn't know how you want to do that. This is where the system piece comes in. So you can create your plan, and there's 2 ways to do that. The reason I have this here is because you can get everything you want by going to antique malls and rubbing lamps until you find one where a genie pops out, and that person, can read your mind and give you everything that you want. Or you can plan out exactly what needs to be accomplished and how is the key word here, how it needs to be done. This is the system. This is where you need to start building systems for your organization. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients, her name was Sue. And she was actually in the insurance world. So David, you'll relate to this. And what she wanted to do was, one of the things on her now list was, it was very important for her to stay in constant contact with her current clients. Because it's a people business, she wanted to stay in front of their face, it's, the loyalty, there's a lot of loyalty issues, and so it was very important for her. And she was spending she was spending a lot of time talking to them about, hey, what's going on with your policy, leaving messages, just chit-chatting. And she decided that that was something that she could delegate. So she sent that to her assistant, and they created a specific system. They wrote a script, They went through, okay, here's what you're going to ask them. Here's what they might say. She trained them to expect what might happen in the conversation. And when they said the magic words, yeah, you know what, I really need to talk to Sue about X, Y, and Z, then the assistant would book another appointment for her. So each day, there was a list that was printed of the names of the people that the assistant needed to call. And she would call down the list according to the script, follow the system that says, if they say this, then do this. If they say this, then do this. If they don't answer, here's the kind of message that you leave. If you're, all of that was really specific. So that then when calls would come back, or if the client said, yeah, I'm really interested in more, then she would talk to that client. That way, it totally freed up her time so that she could go out and get new clients, and her clientele still had that one-on-one touch that she was looking for. Make sense? That's because she had the system in place. And that's really key. Kelly has been talking to you a lot about how I've helped her create systems in her business. This is the core of what we do. Having the system, the how behind what to do, is the most essential way to make sure that you're setting things up so that when you bring people in, they know what to do. They know how to be successful for you because you've told them what to do. You're going to make a phone call. You're going to say this. You're going to do this. You're going to log it here. You're going to go over here. It's the technical definition of system is a sequential set of events that leads to an outcome. So you want to lay out all of these steps that lead to the outcome that you're looking for. So there's a really, and I have a little hand gesture, so I'll teach it to you really quickly. I could talk to you for 4 hours about systems, and we just don't have that much time. So I'm going to give you the short, brief version of it. To create a system for yourself, what you want to do is you want to identify what you're doing. What am I doing? And we just did that. That was the list of things, all of those now and future things. That's the what. What am I doing? Where am I going? What's the desired outcome? What's the goal? Yes, Catherine's already doing it. Back to me, my little hand gestures here. What are we doing? What's the goal? Where's the there? Why are you doing this? What's the, if they're calling customers, is it to keep in touch? Is it to book a meeting? Is it to sell them something? Is it just to check in on them? Why? Define your why. What's your outcome? Why are you doing this? And then create the specific steps that will get you to your there. So, what am I doing? Where am I going? How do I get there? That's how you create a system. So when you're confused about something or you're feeling overwhelmed, that's what I want you to do. Okay, what am I focusing on? What's my desired outcome? Why am I doing this? What's the there? When you get in your car and you drive somewhere, you know when you're there because you knew where you were going in the first place. So what's the there? And then create the systems in order to get you there. Okay, so everybody, put your pens down for a second. I want you to do this with me. Yes, you are. See, I promise you this is awesome. Look at how excited they are that we get to do this. So, okay, and this is a great exercise for whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, to stop and calm yourself down and put things back into perspective, whether you're a systems thinker or not, because it starts to get your mind in this position. So just, if you're in that place, here's what I want you to do. Say to yourself, what am I doing? What am I doing? Where am I going? How do I get there? Exactly. It works. It's awesome. And you know what? Pretty soon you're going to run into me in airports and you're going to be doing this at me. Hey! People do that to me all the time. It's actually pretty funny. So this is key. When you're bringing on a team, you don't want to just throw them in. It's like pushing somebody into a swimming pool and saying, okay, go swim, instead of showing them that they're supposed to get in on the stairs on the shallow end, and then they're supposed to swim across the pool, and then swim back and get out the same stairs that they came in on. You want to lay out those details. And does it take a little effort? Absolutely. But again, this is not a magic bullet. This is growing a successful company. Successful companies are not people that are randomly pushing people into the pool. You want to be prepared. And you can do a little bit at a time, but it's really important for you to have this. You know, or you could absolutely 100% rely on rubbing lamps in antique malls, but I can't guarantee that. All right, so again, Linda is another great example of when we started working with her, she came into one of our consulting programs. She was in that place of doing it all herself. And I guess I wanted to share this with you because I know that some of you are there now where you're doing it all yourself. And again, little by little, we were able to take away those things that were on her now list and put them into systems so that she could easily hire someone to do it for her. And when she did that, that's when her sales took off. So if you're starting to think, well, gosh, yeah, I definitely need somebody, but how am I ever going to pay for this? What, you know, where's it going to pay off? How's it all going to come together? Which some of you are, aren't you? It's okay if you would, it's okay. We've all been there. Again, I'm not expecting you to go hire a full-time, you know, staff of 12. It's one person can make a big difference a little bit at a time, and it will pay off. Okay, so step number 3. This is really where step 1 and 2, figuring out what you're going to delegate and then setting up the systems behind it, that's really the foundation. It's a big part of the foundation piece. This is really where steps 3, 4, and 5 are really kind of a little bit more management focused. So I want to make sure that we talk about that as well. So here's what happens. You want to set that desired outcome. You want to communicate to the people that you're bringing on the results that you want them to achieve. You want to communicate your expectations. I expect, and let me give you an example of this. So with my team is all virtual. I run a virtual company, and they all work from their home offices in various parts of the country. But what I expect, I don't expect them to be in front of at their phone 24/7. But what I have found is that when I hire somebody, it's no longer just, you know, 10 hours a month or 10 hours a week. It's, you know, this is a revolving business, and my expectation is that if you're in a customer service position, that if somebody sends you an email, you're going to respond to them within 24 hours. If somebody leaves a message, I don't care what time it is, you need to return that phone call sometime within 24 hours. So sometimes that means that maybe you'll need to be checking your email at 8 o'clock in the morning and then at 8 o'clock at night. And I'm okay if you're doing that on a BlackBerry or an iPhone or somehow, but that's the expectation I have. A woman that works for me, her name is Renee, and she's amazing. She's been with me for a little over a year now. And again, I guess just side note for a second, this stuff works. When you start to find yourself really getting stuck in the systems piece, just know that because I have these systems, the people on my team stay for a really long time. People work for me for 3 years, 4 years. Sandy, who also happens to be my aunt, she's been with me for almost 6 years now. And not just because I'm her niece, because it's easy for us to work together. Jamie has been with me for so long because it's easy for us to work together. Renee is stuck around because she knows what she needs to do. She feels accomplished on a regular basis, which makes that person feel successful, which makes them want to stay. And that's what you want. You don't want to be constantly training. You don't want to be constantly looking for people. You want to bring in good people and make them feel good so that they stay and do a really good job for you. Wouldn't you agree? That's a high-performance team. Because it takes a little while for them to get their feet wet and really understand what you want them to do anyway. Even if you have great systems, there's still that, okay, where are the, you've all been in the position where you had a new job at one point in your life where it's like, where are the pens? I wasn't supposed to wear blue today? I didn't know that. There's always little quirks and things about companies, so it takes a while to learn that. But this kind of stuff really makes people feel good. And that's where your communicating your expectations come in. Yes, I'm paying you for 10 hours a month, but here's what that's going to look like for me. I also will expect that you need to come to this team meeting, and I also will expect that you need, X, Y, and Z, whatever. It's going to be a little bit different for each of your situations. But being aware of those things and setting them up ahead of time, that's what's going to set you up for success. Does that make sense? Okay, good. And again, it ties back to the there. Being clear about, okay, you are making these phone calls. Let's go back to Sue for a second. You are making these phone calls because I expect that you're going to make my clients feel really good and know that they're not being ignored. And so I expect for you to complete 10 of these calls every week, and I'm making that up. It's specific. You want to be really specific. Hey, just make some phone calls. You know, what is that? Is that 5 calls? Is that 40 calls? Is that, you know, people are not mind readers. They try to be, but if you're not really clear, it's hard for them to be successful. So it's kind of like if you said to somebody, hey, could you run out and get me some lunch? Well, what's lunch? If in my head, I'm thinking, well, okay, I'm getting married, so I'm on a diet, so, you know, I'm only eating rice crackers this week. And for all of my health people, no, I don't really do that. But what is it? You know, what is lunch? Is it a bowl of soup? Is it a sandwich? Is it a steak? Is it a pizza? What is it? Instead of saying, hey, go out and get me some lunch, if you say to the person, hey, could you run down to the corner deli and pick me up a corned beef on rye with some extra mustard on the side, that would be great. That's the specificity. Do you have a question? Can you come to the mic?
Okay, what if you don't know the how, but you feel you have a good person and you want to pay them to get it done and they've been able to communicate the where? Do you ever give that up and say, can you help me create this
Absolutely,
system?
yes, you can absolutely do that.
And do you ever pay just by job, not by hour?
Oh, absolutely.
So they have the autonomy? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and you know, again, there's so many different ways to pay people, and I can touch on that a little bit. You can pay them by hour. You can pay them on retainer. You can pay them by the project. You can say, here's the, you know, a monthly fee that I pay you that is approximately this amount of time. I do that with my people as well. You're going to be paid X number of dollars for the month, and we're looking at that being, you know, approximately so many hours. Because it's easier for, at least in my case, it's easier for them. It's a fair amount. You know, we've looked at the reality of what the position is. We revisit that on a regular basis to make sure that it continues to stay fair. Because again, if you've got somebody good, you want to treat them right because you want them to stay, right? So to answer your question, you can absolutely have, you know, bring in somebody who has some expertise and have them help you create the how. Absolutely. You can do that together. The important piece is to document it so that if they go away, that you have it for future people. On the payment side of things, you know, really look at, okay, is this somebody that needs to be, you know, again, this ties back to your expectations. What are your expectations? That will help you establish how and what you want to compensate them. How and you know, is it, you know, in Renee's case, we have a nice relationship, and it said, look, this is the approximate number of hours that we're looking at, so you don't have to count every minute that you're working. And again, my expectations are that maybe you're working here, maybe you're working there. She has a 1.5-year-old daughter, so, you know, her schedule is a little, I'm okay that she wants to take her daughter to swim class at 11 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I don't care that she goes for a walk at 9 o'clock in the morning every day with her daughter. It's fine because she's still getting the work done. The calls are still being returned. The clients and the potential clients are still being attended to in an appropriate amount of time, in a fast amount of time. And if it's, you know, if it makes more sense for her schedule to get up and work at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, which I personally think would be hell, but she likes it, you know, it works for her. It works for her. And so because we have this arrangement, I have a really high quality person who works, has the life that she wants, and provides really high quality work for me, all for a fair price for both of us. Does that make sense? So don't get stuck. Again, this is a place to get creative. You know, it's not, hey, you're going to work 10 hours, I'm going to pay you this much per hour. You can, you know, talk to the person. They're a person. Will some people be willing to work with you? No, they won't. but maybe that's not the right person. But don't stick yourself in a hole. You know, think about that there are other ways that you can be creative. When Jamie first, came on, I said, well, look, I will ramp you up, but I can't afford that right now. So we came to an agreement that I paid her a percentage of each client that she worked on. So that as we ramped up, as I worked on the sales, because now she was working on the consulting, as that ramped up, not only did my internal sales ramp up, but her paycheck ramped up as well. It was a win-win. Does that make sense? So think about that for yourself. And again, ties back to who do you need? What kinds of things do you need to get done? What are the results that you're looking for? Now let's find a situation and a person who will work with us in order to fulfill that. And that's part one of where the results come in. You want to be really clear about what the results you're expecting are, because that will help guide some of that. Then the other thing that we need to talk about is accountability. When somebody messes up, everybody's human. People make mistakes. That's okay. It's how you handle those mistakes, and it's why they're making the mistakes that you want to look at. If they've made a mistake because there's not a strong system in place, then maybe the two of you want to sit down and create a system together. Okay, this broke down. This client was unhappy about X, Y, and Z because you didn't A, B, and C, but you didn't A, B, and C because we didn't have a clear system. So let's go back and make sure that it's not a systems problem. Take a look at that perspective first. If it's not a systems problem, if they're being lazy, if they made a mistake that they didn't own up to and fix, if they're just, and again, sometimes there are just people out there that do weird things. That's the only way I know how to say it, and that make you scratch your head and go, really? Really? I had an assistant once who, she made a really bad mistake. I had somebody order a product, and she went to the fulfillment company and ordered a different product and sent it to that person. And when I said, why did you do that? Now go please send them the correct one. Why did you do that? Her answer was, well, I was looking at the training, and well, on the page, that's what it said to do. I said, did you notice where it said example? And that maybe you should read the order and match up what the order was to really, this person was not going to get it. So she didn't last very long in my company, as I bet you can imagine. You want to look at why they're making the mistakes, and if it's not a good reason, and you're all smart people, you know if it's not a good reason. There needs to be repercussions. Things need to happen. They need to leave your company. You need to ask them to pay for things that they've messed up 2, 3, 4 times. It's okay to hold them accountable for the mistakes that they make and get rid of them. It's really easy. And I'm stressing this because this is a mistake that I see happen a lot. Again, Mary has come into your company, and you keep giving her stuff, and you keep giving her stuff, and you keep giving her stuff, and then she makes a stupid mistake like this, and then she does it again, and then she does it again, and then she does it again, but you're afraid to let her go because you don't know what else is on her plate. That's not a very powerful position to be in, is it? Is it? So when you lay out the system, and you're clear about what she's doing for you, then you won't be in that position. So you can say, you know what, Mary, this is just not working out. Thank you very much. Good luck. And then you have the system behind it so that it's easy for you to train a new person. I had an office manager who, the position in my company that has changed hands the most often is my admin office manager role. Sometimes Sometimes there's people that fool you in an interview and they think you think they're competent and they're not, so they last a couple of weeks and then they're gone. Sometimes I tend to hire stay-at-home moms who come to work for a while and then decide that they want more time with their kids, which is, again, that's my company motto, so I totally understand that. But because we're systemized, I had an office manager that had been with me for about 1.5 years, and this was her first job after having kids, and she thought, this is great, but I need to, this doesn't feel right to me. I don't want to work anymore. So she gave me some notice, and I happened to be in Hawaii while this was all transposing. We hired somebody new, and all of the training happened while I was on vacation in Hawaii because all the systems were there. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Dale. I'm getting the thumbs up. It's that piece, that systems piece is different than I'm making a mistake. If they're making a mistake, then you need to let them go. Don't hold on to them. Yeah. And this may sound obvious, and the reason that I'm spending some extra time on this is because you would be surprised at how often the conversation goes like this. Oh, man, I've been working with her for so long, and I so need to just fire her. And my response, so why don't you? Well, you know, she's got this, and she kind of knows that, and he kind of does a piece of this, and gosh, yeah, it's more work to let them go because that foundation, those first two steps, the what and the systems behind it haven't been established. So then, yes, it's a lot of work to find a new person. So if you do that ahead of time, when somebody messes up, it's easy to let them go, and you should. Because if somebody is not serving your company, then they're not just hurting you, they're hurting the other people that are working in your company, and they're hurting your bottom line. And this happens in Growing Pains sometime. About, gosh, this is years ago already. The very first, like, regular, not the $10 an hour person, but the next person who was really working for me on a regular basis on a monthly retainer situation, she was with me for about 1.5 years, and it really got to the point where my business had grown, and I had outgrown her. The expectations had changed. When I hired her, it was like, yeah, you know, we're really just going to communicate via email. I almost never talked to her on the phone. Everything that we did was virtual, and that was fine. Then the company grew, and we started to hold team meetings, and we started to collaborate, and we started to depend on each other. It wasn't just me and her, it was a team. And she didn't want to be on the team meetings. When she did show up for the team meetings, it was like, yeah, I'm here. Okay. Balls started to get dropped. The level of excellence that she had was going away. Things were changing. And I made a mistake. I kept her on a lot longer than I should have. And that cost a lot. That cost me in lost opportunities because she was doing things like letting potential speaking engagements slip through the cracks. Not good. Yeah, Michelle just made a face. You know, that's money in my pocket that, you know, just went away. Little things like that. Yes, instead of doing this, it went, was the reverse. It was because I was trying to be loyal to her. She's been here all this time. She's worked so hard. She's been so good to me. She was, you know, we did this. We've grown up together. How can I possibly let her go? Anybody relating to this? I see some heads nodding, yeah. It hurts you. It's not good for them. It's not good for you. It's not good for the rest of the people. So let me tell you what happened. Finally, it got to the point where I had it. And I just couldn't, I just knew that it was time. And I sat her down and I said, you know, you're not happy. I'm not happy. We need to make some changes here. And what I thought was going to be a really nasty conversation, because I approached it in a way of, look, I think you can feel that something's not right here. And she said, yeah. So I said, here's what I did. I know that you like to work like this, and my company is moving that I need somebody who will work like that. So I made a phone call, and I've got some referrals for you. Why don't you call these people? They need somebody. I think you would be a really good match. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. So what could have been a really nasty conversation turned out to be a really nice thing for both of us. And she was just as relieved as I was, because neither one of us were happy. So if you're in that position, know that holding them accountable and letting go is often a much better thing for both of you. and it turned out to be much better. It turned out to be a much better thing for both of us. So and you've probably heard this before. You want to hire slowly and fire quickly. It's very true. It's not going to get better. People show their colors really quickly. Really quickly. And it doesn't change. People don't change. So just know that accountability is not a four-letter word, and it's good for both of you to hold people accountable to what they're doing. All right. So now, in order to hold somebody accountable, what you want to do is you want to really do your best up front to make sure that you're finding the right people, right? It's good to start with good people. So it's kind of, I have this image here because it's kind of like, who are you passing the baton to? That's what you're really doing, is you're taking specific pieces of your business and you're passing it to somebody. So there are a couple things that you really want to focus on. You really want to, now that you've got what you want to delegate, the systems that you're delegating them to, now it becomes really crystal clear, wow, they're going to be focusing on, we'll go back to Sue that I was talking about. She needed somebody to pick up the phone, talk to her clients. It was really clear what skills she needed. She needed somebody who was friendly, who was outgoing, who was knowledgeable on her subjects, who had good follow-up skills, because, who could schedule an appointment, so had some detail, orientation there. It was really clear what skills were needed to fulfill that role. And that's huge, huge. Because here's how I see most people hiring. Okay, I'm stuck. I need some help. I'm really overwhelmed. I need a body. I need somebody. Who do you know? And your friend comes back to you and says, oh my gosh, Bob is awesome. So you don't interview him, you have a 5-minute conversation with him, you don't really tell him, you don't really ask what he can do, you don't really tell him what you need, you just hire Bob. And yeah, Bob was great for your friend because Bob loves spreadsheets. Oh, does he love spreadsheets? He just wants to sit in his room all day and move the numbers around on the spreadsheets. But you need somebody who's going to be bubbly and very personable with your clients. Think that's a good fit? No. Yeah. Lots of people have hired Bob once. And so then you go back to your friend and you're like, are you crazy? Bob is horrible. Why would you ever give me that name? And then your friend's mad because you don't like Bob and you had to fire Bob, and it's just, it becomes a whole drama. It's because you didn't look at the skills that you need and you didn't interview properly. So I know if you're thinking, well, I'm a small business, do I really need to go through that whole HR, whole interview process? No, you're not Toyota. You don't need to sit them down with a 300-page HR manual. But you do need to spend some time. You need to think about, okay, these are the skills that I'm looking for. This is the kind of experience that needs to happen. So, Alice, if you bring somebody into your organization to help with the design pieces, maybe, again, the skills that you're looking for are somebody who understands color, and I'm totally making this up, but somebody who understands color, and somebody who knows the difference between, a Jennifer sofa and a designer sofa, and somebody who you get the point. You get the point. Somebody who knows something about stuff. You want to ask. Prove it. Show me. How do you know? Show them photos. Okay, which one is the designer sofa? Which one is the department store sofa? You want to come up with a series of questions that test those skills to make sure that that's the right person for you. We recently I hired a full-time salesperson about 3 months ago now. And I got really clear. First, we created a really specific role description. This is what this person's going to do. This is how they're going to interact with clients. They're going to, it was really detailed. And it said to me, these are the kinds of skills that I need. I need somebody who can hunt leads. I need somebody who's not afraid to pick up the phone and make cold calls. I need somebody who can get in there and network and be bubbly and create relationships. It became really clear what skills that I needed. So then when I started to interview them, I asked specific questions. Are you doing this? What's your experience in that? And I watched how she interacted with me. I watched how she interacted with Jeff. There were specific things that I was looking for because I had identified that in the first place. Question? Can you come to the mic, please?
Do you ever have people work on a trial basis to kind of test them out? Because I did that with design assistants that were hired. So I would talk with them about the job, and there's a lot of misconceptions of what the job really is.
Right.
And so I have them come on a job with me, and I'll give them a room. Go grab some stuff, go do the bathroom, and I'll take a look at the results. It's either yes or no, and my God, some of the results you get.
Exactly.
You know, so that's easy enough from that standpoint. But for like administrative tasks or things like that, how do you kind of work that process in?
That's a great question, thank you. And that was a really good point as well, that you give them a test. And you can test them with admin stuff. Give them a small job. Make them go through hoops in order for them to get an interview with you in the first place. This is something that we do, especially with a salesperson. This is something that I learned from Jamie, actually, because she used to do it in a company that she worked for. When you're hiring a salesperson and you want to see if they're persistent, here's what you do. They call, you say in your ad, here's how you apply for this role. Send your resume, as an attachment or in the body. Put the words, I love chicken heads, some weird thing, so that, you give them directions on how they apply for the role in the first place. Then what we did was we would set up an appointment, and they would call for that interview, and she would say, oh, I'm really sorry, this meeting has come up and I need to postpone. Call me on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Really specifically, call me on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And you see if they call on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. If they do, then you're busy again. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you call me on Thursday at 9 a.m.? So you're giving them that test up front just to get through into the interview process. And then yes, you can absolutely create, you're gonna be building websites for me. Can you, show me, here's a sample project. Can you put this together so I can see what it looks like? Let me see a sample of your work. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great way to really weed out somebody's skill set, and you definitely want to do that. Okay, so just to recap here, I want to get through steps 5 and talk a little bit about the delegation, and I'm about to be shoot off the stage here. So let me fast forward here a little bit. Okay, so step 5 is checking in. If any of you recognize this guy, anybody remember that infomercial? Set it and forget it. Ron Popeil, set it and forget it. The perfect rotisserie chicken. That's great for chicken, but when you're dealing with people that you work with, you have to check in with them. This is the communication piece. You have to be talking to them on a regular basis. And when I say talking to them, that doesn't mean that you have to pick up the phone every 10 minutes and check on them. You're not micromanaging them. You need to have a system, a way that you're communicating with them. Are you talking to them once a week? I talk to all of my key team members once a week. We have a check-in meeting. So we go through what's your priority, what have you been working on, what are your questions, report back to me what's happening. It's a great way. It takes me 1 hour with each person. I'm not constantly interrupted. They save up their stuff. We go over it all at once. There are technology tools that you can use. Kelly's team uses Central Desktop, where she inputs everything into the Central Desktop so that they can see what their to-dos are, and then they talk about those things. You can have a team meeting or a team huddle. A huddle is just a meeting that's much faster, like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on what you do. You bring everybody, put them on the phone. If you work in an office, bring them together live. Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's just to keep the communication piece open. You can't, it's a huge mistake to say, Mary, welcome to the team. Here's some stuff. Have at it. See you in a month. That's a nightmare waiting to happen. Regular communication. You have to be in regular communication with each and every person on your team. All right. And here's everybody's favorite one. How to delegate when you have no one to delegate to. So you want to actually, and here's a huge one. Everybody owns technology. Everybody. Whether it's the email, what is it, not server, email client. What is it? No, the email, the thing that you're using for email, whether it's Outlook or Entourage or whatever it is that you're using. CRM. It's not even a CRM, but your email, whatever you're using to check your email. if you're using something like Outlook, Outlook is a really, really powerful business tool. And most people use it like it's a typewriter. And that's true of all kinds of technology, whether you use Constant Contact, a CRM, if you're using something like Salesforce or Basecamp or One Shopping Cart or Infusionsoft, any of those tools, those are incredibly powerful tools. And have you ever heard that saying that we use like 10% of our brains? It's not true, we actually use all of our brains, but it is true with technology. People use about 1 to 5% of the capability of their technology. So if you want to start freeing some stuff up, go and learn some of the intermediate to advanced tools in the technology that you already own, that you're already using, because you can likely save yourself a whole bunch of time. If you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, there are likely ways that you can utilize the technology that you already own to do some things. So you want to really look at that, because that's really important. It's a really easy way to skip over that. And then the last thing that I want to talk to you about is if you need an extra pair of hands, a great way to get that is to buddy up with somebody. You work, get with a colleague, you work on their business for a little while, for a couple of hours, you work on your business together for a couple of hours. Interns are a great way to get people into your organization to help you. And interns are not just college kids. I've seen a couple of my colleagues do this, and I thought this was really smart. They put out to their mailing lists, hey, I'm looking for an intern. Who wants to learn my behind the scenes and see, and I'll pull back the curtain, you're gonna work for me, but I'm gonna pull back the curtain so that you can really see what we're doing. And it's not kids that are stepping up to take some of these internships. So that's a great way to get some extra help.
Can I actually say something about that too?
Uh-huh.
The top 3 people that my favorite people who ever worked with me on my team, one was an intern and was completely free. One was $10 an hour, and one was $17 an hour. So it doesn't have to be, the $80 an hour, whatever.
Mm-hmm. It especially doesn't have to be when you're clear about what you're telling them to do, what the system looks like, you're setting your expectations, you're holding them accountable, you're making sure that you've got the right person in the first place, and then you're communicating and you're checking in with them on a regular basis. That's the formula for effective delegation and really building yourself a high-performance team. That's how you get, when the light bulb goes off, that's how you get other people to implement it and run it for you. So that you can do things like, take a bunch of time off because you have a wedding and a honeymoon to Thailand coming up. So, but that's the key. That's how you build this team.
So let's give Beth a big hand. Yay, did you guys love that?